psych, lore, and insights.
Welcome to Psych, Lore, and Insights. I'm Sarah, your host and a psychiatric nurse practitioner. Also joining us is my brother Steve, an Irish-blooded, natural-born storyteller. We mix history, lore, and true crime with psychiatry, psychology, and all things related to the human psyche. And wow, we have got a story for you today. It is the story of Elisa Lam and the seedy Cecil Hotel. In addition, we'll dive into the topic of bipolar disorder. I'm not diagnosing or giving any medical advice. This is for educational and entertainment purposes. Trigger warning, this episode does have some dark themes. It discusses suicide, death, violence, severe mental illness, and child harm. So if this isn't for you, please go take care of yourself and catch up with us in the next episode.
Wanted to do a two-part story because it's not only about Elisa Lam, it's also about the Cecil Hotel.
I am so excited because I don't know anything about the Cecil Hotel, and I know very little about Elisa Lam.
All right. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to start at the Cecil Hotel itself, kind of build a background on that, and then we'll get into Elisa Lam.
Let's do it.
So the Cecil Hotel opened up in 1927. This was right before the Depression. It was at 640 South Main Street. So LA was like booming. And this guy, his name was William Banks Hanner. This is in
William Banks. That sounds like a rich guy.
Exactly.
Billy Banks. Can we call him Billy Banks?
Billy Banks. So this was in 1924. He spent $1 million to build this hotel. Now you think in 1924, how much is $1 million worth like today money?
Which is, do we know?
Crazy. I looked it up. It was like 19 million today.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot of money.
Yeah, a lot of money. So it's downtown LA, and he hired an architect. The architect's name was Lloyd Lester Smith. So he wanted to build this. It was a 14-story building, terracotta, marble floors, ornate plasterwork. It was supposed to be like businessmen from around the world, not just the United States. It was supposed to be like an amazing hotel, and it was. But 2 years later, the Depression hit, and it took a horrible turn. So where he built that, and it was like super, super upscale, but that place turned into what people know now as Skid Row, not the band.
But we're talking more seedy neighborhood kind of thing.
Yeah, so it turned into transients everywhere, and they were like sleeping in the hotel lobby. So everything crashed, and this once really upscale hotel became a part of where people were squatting in the lobby and stuff like that. But Cecil Hotel, as it was, they kind of adapted. They really didn't have a choice. So basically these rooms that they had that would cost a week's wages for one night to stay in the hotel, they dipped to $14 a night. Squatters were everywhere. It eventually turned into some of the rooms they would turn into basically hostel rooms to where multiple people could stay there. I don't know if you've ever stayed in a hostel.
I was just going to say, I have never stayed in a hostel.
I've stayed in a few. It's an experience.
When you were in Ireland, right? Is that when you experienced that?
The first hostel I ever went to, me and my cousin, we landed in Dublin, and it was past midnight. We had no plans, nothing. And we found this place in Dublin. I think it was called the Avalon, and they were still open. And we ended up getting a room there. We'd never been to a hostel before. And so he gives us our key and everything. We go up to the room, and we hear giggling and stuff in there. And I didn't really understand what a hostel was. So we went up there, and we're fumbling with my keys and everything, trying to get it in the door. And there was 6 girls in the room.
You poor thing.
Yeah, it was awful. It was
How old were you?
22.
What a way to travel when you're 22.
22 or 23.
Yeah.
We ended up hanging out with them. We all went to breakfast the next morning. Everything was pretty cool. But
what an experience.
But yeah, so this hotel turned into that. And then what happened after that was a lot of people think that the hotel is cursed because it was just over and over. I think to date, there has been like 16 or 17 deaths in that hotel.
Wow. That seems like a lot. I don't know what the average deaths per hotel lifetime is.
So let me get to some of the famous deaths that have happened there. So
sounds nefarious.
Yeah, it is. A lot of people think that it's the most haunted, cursed place in America. It's really weird. So on January 22nd, 1927, that's the year that the Cecil fully opened. Just in that year, they already had their first death.
What happened? Do you know?
A 57-year-old man, his name was Percy Armand Cook. He checked in there and he self-inflicted gunshot wound.
Percy.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
And he had he left behind a letter addressed to the press. He had been considering it for a few weeks before he actually decided to do it. And that's where he decided to do it. It's just, yeah. So the next death came November of 1931. UK Norton, he checked in under an assumed name. He called himself James Willies for some reason. I don't know. But he took a bunch of poison caplets and killed himself in the room.
Boy, this makes me not want to go stay at any hotels.
I kind of want to go to some of these.
I would love to go see the Cecil Hotel. I don't want to sleep there.
You know, I kind of want to stay there for one night.
Okay.
I'm weird.
No. Weird it out. Go ahead. Stay there.
Well, we can't because it's closed to the public.
It's closed?
As of 2000.
Man, spoiler alert. Okay. Well, we can drive by it.
But yeah, it's still standing there. And I've watched.
The sign is up and everything.
Mm-hmm. You know, they changed it. Different things that I looked up. It was either after Elisa Lam that we're going to get to, or it was before that, but they changed the name from the Cecil to the Stay on Main. And it was like hostel rooms, but it also had private rooms, but they tried to like rebrand themselves. Really didn't work out. And as far as I know, as of now, it's closed to the public. I think there's people that live there, but it's like certain like housing for people in need or something like that, but it totally closed to the public. And then let's see, in 1932, a 25-year-old Benjamin, I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
Spell it.
Dodich, 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 but another one, self-inflicted gunshot wound. And then in 1934, an Army sergeant, Louis D. Borden, he was 53. He slashed his own throat with a razor. So, I mean,
this is so sad.
Yeah, it's sad.
This must be a very depressing area and hotel. What's LA?
Absolutely. It's LA. But
sorry, LA people.
Sorry, LA people. I like visiting.
Like Disneyland.
Well, that's Anaheim.
Nearby, right?
Very nearby. Yeah. So everybody thinks of like glamorous and everything. And the hotel was glamorous at one time. It is not anymore. After the Depression, it just, man. And then we got 1937 in March, a 25-year-old woman named Grace E. Magro. She fell from the 9th story window. She actually hit some wires, electricity wires. She got tangled in
the lines.
Yeah, she got tangled in the lines. She was rushed to the hospital. Well, she ended up dying like 2 days later.
This place is not safe.
Yeah. All right. So the next one. So in January 1938, Roy Thompson, he was 35. He was a Marine Corps veteran, and he jumped out of the window to his death.
Man, that's really sad. And it's especially with our veterans, you know, they go through a lot. They see a lot. They do a lot for us. I really appreciate them. And you hate to hear anybody attempting or committing suicide. It really hurts when it's a vet.
And then you're thinking about the timeline as well. We're talking about in the 30s, you know, a lot of mental health stuff wasn't understood. So they had, you know, a ton of PTSD, which they didn't call it back then, the shell shock, whatever they wanted to call it. But they were struggling and And
I don't think the military was like encouraging them to seek out help for it at that time. We've come a long way.
They kind of just discarded them. They were like, well, you did your job. Okay, bye. Just super sad. And then January 1940, this woman, Dorothy Seger, she was 45 years old, and she also checked in under a pseudonym, which I don't know why all these people do that. But she also poisoned herself.
You know,
And she was rushed to the hospital. They actually found her. She was barely alive. She ended up dying 2 days later in the hospital from poisoning herself.
that's horrible. Every time I go to a hotel, maybe things have changed. You have to show them your ID. So I don't know how people used to check in. I guess they didn't have to show them an ID
Yeah.
under aliases.
It happened all the time, especially rock stars. They do that all the time because they don't want to be found. They don't
Right.
people knowing where they're at.
Yep.
So then we got Dorothy Jean Purcell, 1944. She was 19 years old. She was staying in the hotel with her then boyfriend. She did not know that she was pregnant. She woke up, I think it was like at 3 a.m. or something, and she gave birth. She did not know she was pregnant. She gave
I
birth.
don't know how that happens. You hear
I
that
don't need,
happening all the time.
I don't know how that happens.
I've had 2 kids, and I can't imagine not knowing. I mean, I knew like in 4 weeks, 100%, my body was different.
Well, they had it like on MTV or something years ago. They had us like, I didn't know I was pregnant, basically show. I don't know what it was called. I was like, how do you not know you're pregnant? First of all, your cycle stops. You get morning
There's that.
sickness, your belly starts to grow. I can't wrap my mind around how people
Same.
know that they're pregnant.
Same. I don't. They say that it's true. I don't know. What's interesting is some people aren't pregnant and their body acts like they're pregnant, and their belly starts growing and it does all the things. It's like a pseudo pregnancy. I think that's interesting as well.
Yeah. Well, she was freaked out. Like I said, she was only 19. This is part of a trigger warning that you were talking about earlier.
I want to hear this. Okay, go ahead. Hurry. Say it fast.
She freaked out. She threw the baby out the window.
Baby, baby, baby.
Yeah.
That hurts my heart.
She was cleared. She was cleared because they basically said that she was not of mental fitness. So
How old was she?
19.
19. She was still really young.
She faced no charges, nothing.
She went into shock.
There's another lady that jumped to her death. She jumped out of the window. She landed on a passerby and killed him as well.
What?
He's just an innocent dude walking down the street.
And a person fell on him?
She fell right on top of him. She killed herself and an innocent just guy walking down the sidewalk.
That's the worst.
Imagine just being
walking.
a tourist and you're just walking down the sidewalk and a body lands on you.
That's horrible.
So 2 more, and then we'll move on to Elisa Lam. Do you know who Richard Ramirez is?
A guitar player, right? Is he a guitar player? He's a rock person. No, he's a serial killer. He's the Night Stalker.
He's the Night Stalker.
Who's the guitarist that I'm thinking that sounds like Richard Ramirez?
Richard Ramirez? I have no idea. I don't know any Ramirez guitar players.
I just made it up. He's the Night Stalker.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Yes.
He lived at the Cecil Hotel.
Man.
While he was committing all his murders. Night Stalker.
Early 80s?
Richard Ramirez lived. He was staying, and they have like he was paying $14 per night to stay in his room. He lived there from 1984 to 1985 when he was doing all his murders.
Okay, so it was in the early mid 80s.
He lived in the Cecil Hotel.
Gross.
And then later, there was a guy. His name was Jack Unterweger, another serial killer. He was paying a homage to the Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez. He also lived in the Cecil Hotel, and he lived there in 1991 before.
My God. Damn, I got the morbs bad. Ugh.
And then the last one, you know who Elizabeth Short is?
Was she the one that was kidnapped for a while and she lived with the people and then escaped like years later?
Yeah. Elizabeth Short was the Black Dahlia.
The Black Dahlia?
Mm-hmm. She was bisected. They cut her body in half and she was just placed in a field. Her face was just, it was
disgusting.
She was seen at the Cecil Hotel a couple of days before her body was found.
Okay, I am not staying at the Cecil Hotel.
So that's the history of the Cecil Hotel. So now,
She's beautiful. I just looked her up.
well, absolutely.
She is how sad if this is yeah, she was beautiful girl. I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
So there's definitely a very dark boy, this is a lot to take in, to
I
digest all
know.
at once.
So
That's
whenever we were going to do the story on Elisa Lamb, that's
mhm.
why I delved back into the actual hotel, the Cecil Hotel, and I was like, well, I got to tell the story about the hotel
The
itself first
setting.
and
Mhm.
set it up, and then now we'll start talking about Elisa Lamb and her
Okay.
last days there.
Okay, so this is already a very dark, nefarious, seedy hotel, and
Hmm.
that's where we are, right? Okay.
Yeah. So let's see. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to mention this. I know a lot of people watch American Horror Story. There's the fifth season of American Horror Story that is based on the Cecil Hotel. It's called Hotel. So it's season 5 of American Horror, and it's called Hotel. It was based off the Cecil Hotel.
That you can't just ignore that history.
No, and it's like everybody thinks that the whole property over there is cursed.
I wonder
Not
what
only
it was built on, like, if the land what was going on with that land.
you think about there was some stuff, it's not confirmed, but there's like talk about like it used to be an old cemetery or something way back in the day.
Mhm.
Not confirmed,
I would totally believe
but
it because something, the energy is definitely dark at this
yeah,
place.
100%. Yeah.
Before we go any further, I just would like to say if you are struggling with any depression or mental health illness, please reach out for help. You can utilize 988, the crisis line. You can call it, you can text it, talk to a friend, talk to somebody you trust. Please just reach out. There's a lot of help available. There are a lot of treatments that work. I know oftentimes people feel hopeless and that they feel like they're going to feel this way forever, and that's not the case at all. So there are medications, there are different kinds of talk therapy, there's TMS, which is transcranial magnetic stimulation. There are ketamine infusions that can be utilized. So do not struggle in silence. Reach out and get some help because I want you to keep coming back every day. You matter. Another great resource to find some mental health help is psychologytoday.com. This is not a promotion, but if you go to their website, and you can search on your zip code, your city, your state. You can filter by a lot of different options. You can filter by your insurance, if you prefer male, female, telehealth, or in person, different types of therapy, whether it's related to depression, anxiety, OCD, bipolar disorder, trauma. And then you can search on all of those and it will come up with a list of psychologists and other mental health professionals that you can reach out to. And their emails are right there. It's nice because you can see their picture, read their bio, and see like if that is somebody that you feel like you might be able to connect with because that therapeutic relationship with your provider is very important. So if you find somebody and you don't feel that connection, don't give up. Keep reaching out.
Now we can start getting into her story. What do you
I'm
think?
ready.
Ready?
I'm ready. I feel like I mentally prepared my soul after
It's
listening to the Cecil Hotel, ready to go down this journey.
so some of it's good, just the kind of person that she was. So it was January 26th in 2013. She was 21 years old, Elisa Lamb. She was from Vancouver, British Columbia. She checked into the hotel. She was traveling alone,
Alone at 2021 from
and her parents
Vancouver.
were immigrants from Hong Kong,
Okay.
but she grew up in Canada. I was about to say Canada. I'm like, I'm broken. But she had just been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. So she was struggling with that. And she just kind of, at 21 years old, she just kind of wanted to take a trip to the US. I don't think she ever,
That's got to be very brave at 21. That's
absolutely.
pretty young for a young girl. And recently had a new mental health diagnosis that's pretty severe
Mhm.
just to brave traveling alone. So
And her parents didn't want her to go, but she was 21 and they were like, well, we can't stop her. We don't think it's a good idea. So they let her
probably
go.
better with a friend. Yeah.
But she went alone. She had a blog. It was called, let's see, I'll get to it. Oh, it was called Ether Fields.
Ether, ETHER, Ether.
Ether Fields. And she was pretty well known to be like a big blogger. She was very into music and arts, and she was into like reading. She loved bookstores, and she was just like everybody really loved her. Like she
And
was
what year was this? You said she was
this
21, but like
she was
about
21, so it was in 2013 whenever she took this trip.
okay.
So it was 2013. She was
What was going on in the world in 2013, just for reference? I'm going to do a quick search on top events just to give us some context. Okay, let's see. Big world events 2013. Edward Snowden leaks, election of Pope Francis, the rise of Xi Jinping in China, humanitarian crisis in Syria. Okay. All right. I kind of feel like, okay, back in
Now
2013.
we know where we're at.
We're at Snowden era. Okay.
Gotcha. Okay. So she went and she was going to take this. She had it all planned out. She was going to go down the West Coast all through California. She had already hit San Diego. She was going to go to Santa Cruz after LA. But whenever she got to LA, then she checked into the Cecil Hotel. Before we get into her story, I think it's important to learn who she was. We're not talking about the case, the video, the theories. We want to talk about her first. So she was born April 30th in 1991. She was born in Vancouver. Like I mentioned earlier, her parents were immigrants from Hong Kong. She was enrolled as a student at the University of British Columbia. She really had a big interest in like the entire world. She wanted to know about everything. She was very outgoing, creative. Like I said, she had the Ether Fields blog that she would basically do a journal of her life and everybody would read it. She wrote
She was like an influencer before that was a thing, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And a lot, she had a lot of followers and everything, music and film. She also, on her blog, whenever she found out she had bipolar disorder, she wasn't like, she didn't hide it. She like spoke about it. And then at that time, it was kind of like, you kind of brush that under the rug and not really talk about it. She was totally open about it, and she spoke about it and her struggles and this and that. And she did this one on her blog. She wrote, and it was a quote from some author, Chuck, I can't pronounce his last name, Palanuik. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But that's what's on her blog. Is it was a snippet of what he wrote, and it was, you're always haunted by the idea that you're wasting your life. And that's what's like, I think with the research that I did, you can still look up her blog, but everything's been cleared except for that quote. And that's all that there's left.
Just as I'm getting to know her, she sounds adventurous, very courageous.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I can see the attraction of why people would read her blog and her creativity.
Yeah. And she loved to travel. And whenever she went on this trip, she just wasn't like a normal passive tourist. She loved to she sought out like bookstores, galleries, local restaurants. Like she really wanted to like take it all in. Tells you about like who she was. And so her parents, they kind of didn't want her to go, but like I said, they couldn't really stop her. So they backed her and they were like, make sure you call us every day. Tell us where you're at. Tell us how you're doing, this and that. And she did. She did it every day. So January 26th, 2013, that's when she checked in to the Cecil Hotel. She booked it for 3 nights originally, and she was placed in basically, they call it a dormitory room, but basically like a hostel room. So had other people that were in the room with her. Well, her roommates reported to the hotel staff that she was acting kind of off and it was kind of bothering them and it was trouble. So, I mean, it was such a concern to them that the staff actually moved her to a solo room.
Okay.
Now, what she was doing, why they felt like it was off and weird, it's not really recorded. But they were like, yeah, she's not acting right and we're not comfortable with her in our room. So they had her moved into her own room. And so we got January 6th through January 30th. She's doing her thing. She's visiting other places, most notably a bookstore. It's called The Last Bookstore on Spring Street. It's like an independent bookstore. And the lady there remembered seeing her. And she was exploring. She seemed perfectly fine. She was totally pleasant. Nothing seemed wrong with her whatsoever. And this is when she did not get back in touch with her parents. And her parents started freaking out because she had been checking in with them like constantly nonstop. And then it just stopped. So it was January 31st. That was the last day that she was confirmed to be seen alive. And it was the lady from the bookstore. And then all this silence stops. Everybody's looking for her. Parents freak out. They finally called the LAPD, and then officers actually searched the hotel and the surrounding neighborhoods. They started reviewing security footage and questioning the staff and all that. Then on February 13th, they actually released the clip of the footage that, I don't know if you've watched it. You can get on YouTube and watch it. Anybody can watch it. It is the creepiest footage, and it's from it's from the elevator that she was in.
I did see that footage. It was very odd behavior. I saw her
Very odd.
get in the elevator and push like several numbers in the middle, and then
Yeah,
she had these
yeah,
very rhythmic steps where she'd step to the side, she'd step to the other side, she'd step forward, she'd step back,
and then
and
she
she was
was like
out in the
crouched down in the corner, like she was hiding from somebody, and then pushing
crouch.
and then she looks out, she looks left, she looks right, and then she jumps back in, and like she's hiding. And then what's really weird, what everybody talks about is, we've all been on elevators before. That door will close eventually. The door never closed.
Do you know what floor she was on at that time when in the footage where she got on the elevator? Was she on the first floor? Was she on, did you see any information about that?
I'm sure I could look it up, but I didn't write down like what floor she was on or
I was
anything
just
like that.
curious.
But I'm like,
And
I'm
then,
kind of curious now that you bring that up, because for some reason, 14 seems to be like a damning number in that hotel. Room 14, floor 14. I mean, I think Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, he was on floor 14. And then the other serial killer that lived there, he was like in room 14 or something like that. 14 just seems to be flying around. That's part of
just
the
the
lore.
unlucky 14.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Wonder if it has something to do with like hotels won't have a 13th floor anymore because everyone thinks
They're
it's
superstitious.
such bad luck. So
Yeah.
actually, the 14th floor is the 13th floor.
Yeah, you know what
But
floor you're on.
the other odd thing about that footage is when she steps out of the elevator one of the times, she's in the hallway and she's doing these gestures with her hands that's very odd. I almost thought she was like gesturing, and there's nobody else around that you can see in the footage.
But it looks
But
like
she's
she's
doing
talking
these
about something.
she's doing these gestures with her hands, but then they become almost more like intentional movements, almost like somebody's doing sign language, and you don't see anybody else around. But she looks like she is responding to some kind of stimulus, whether it's somebody external or something that's going on inside of her.
Yeah, and there's a lot of talk about that, just her behavior, and it looks like she's engaging with somebody, but from the footage you can't see anybody. Like almost she's scared or engaging or something, and then she jumps back, and then she goes back out of frame. Nobody ever sees her again.
And she didn't look panicked like somebody was after her. It wasn't like she was like running and trying to get the elevator to close and like panic. It was just these very odd movements. And then sometimes she would jump out and look around, and sometimes she'd jump back in. But then she'd have these very like almost like ritualistic step to the right, go to the corner, turn, step to the left, step forward 2 steps, like very odd. It wasn't like in a panic type fashion, but it was didn't look comfortable either.
No, not at all. And I don't know if that, I mean, you can get into more of that whenever you talk about like bipolar and everything.
Well, we could
But I
talk a
mean,
little bit about it now.
there's like, I mean, there's certain people that have like, you can't step on a crack, or you have to do this 3 times. It was that kind of weird behavior to me.
Well, that would be more like obsessive compulsive behavior. Like if somebody has extreme anxiety and they have these ritual like compulsions that they do to like ease that anxiety, like hand washing is a big one. If they have fear of contamination and they have to wash their hands sometimes a special number of times, 7 times in a very ritualistic manner. And if they go outside of the ritual, they have to redo the ritual again.
Start all over again.
to ease that anxiety. But more of what I was seeing with her was what we would call psychomotor agitation, which can be a symptom in bipolar mania. So it's like unintentional but repetitive movements. It's like purposeless, but it's very driven movement, but more caused by like an internal stimulus than external. And it's just this almost restlessness, but these like movements that look very intentional but don't have any meaning to them. And that's it does look very much like that to me in that video.
It's
It's an interesting video.
a
And
very interesting video.
for the folks listening, if you haven't watched it, go onto YouTube and just type in
You can do Elisa Lam.
It's Elisala.
Yeah.
Elisa Lam, and then watch that footage.
Which is really weird because one of the theories, I mean, we'll get into this, but one of the theories, because nobody knows, it's unsolved. But one of the theories is that the tuberculosis, one of the tests is called
I did hear
Lam Elisa. And it's spelled the exact same, but backwards.
That they were doing like a government was doing some sort of an experiment on the public without them knowing. And
it's debunked.
During the same time.
But that's part of the lore. And we talk about the lore. But yeah, that's just a total coincidence. But how weird is that?
I know. And I didn't do any research. I don't know if there was that project, but I did hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of the lore, check into it.
Absolutely.
If you worked for the government during that time and you know anything about it,
Lam Elisa Lam.
psychlorSarah@gmail.com.
Absolutely. So, okay, so this part just gives me the cringes. Nobody found her. She was just gone. And then it had been 3 weeks since anyone saw her. All of a sudden, residents start complaining about the water in the hotel. So this water supply, there's 4 tanks on the roof. They supply, I mean, your drinking water, shower water, bath water, all that. It also went to a coffee shop that was next door that supplied the water for the coffee shop. Well, people started complaining that the water was weird. Like they'd turn on the water, it would come out black. And then if you kept it running, that it would slowly clear up, but it had a weird smell and a weird taste. This is 3 weeks later.
Cringy.
So they sent up like one of the guys that worked there, one of the maintenance guys. He walked up there and he got onto the roof and there was a water tank that had like the lid wasn't, all the reports are different. Some of them say it was closed completely. Some of them say it was halfway closed and that's why he opened it. But he opened it up and there was her body floating in the 8x4 water tank.
Horrible.
She was completely nude, but her clothes were floating next to her, like in the water.
And I heard there was absolutely no evidence of any sexual assault.
There was no sexual assault evidence, but I go back to, well, she was floating in there for 3 weeks. How could you test for that?
True. But maybe just evidence on her body.
Maybe she had no visible scars or like bruising or anything like that. Like, so there was no assault, no sexual abuse, nothing. So this is where everything like it just goes like we don't have any answers at all. Like what?
And from what I understand, for her to get there, it would have been extremely difficult, almost impossible, but not completely. The other thing is it would have been like if she had been abducted, it would have been nearly impossible for somebody to take her up there. So, I mean, there was like this door hatch that had to open that was really, really heavy to get onto the roof.
And not
she
only
wasn't
that,
a big girl. She was pretty small.
tiny. She was small. And then also there was no access unless you worked there. Alarm would go off. So you would have to know the code or whatever in order to not trip the alarm because there was an alarm. If anyone was up there that didn't have, they weren't, qualified to be up there, an alarm would go off. But then the water tanks were on a platform and then you had to actually manually get a ladder to climb up the 8 feet to get up there. And then the lids were heavy enough and she was a small girl. How could she open that by herself? How could she find herself in there and then treading water with nowhere to plant your feet, how do you put the lid back on when you're just treading water? Like, it doesn't make any sense. And why was she naked? Well, it's just so there's like it just goes on and on from there. It's
It's
like,
a mystery.
yeah.
It's never been solved.
Mm-mm.
I wonder what they did when they discovered this. Did they shut down the hotel
They
and
had
the coffee
to
shop? I'm sure
they
people were sick.
Yeah, there was a bunch of lawsuits. There was one couple I came across an interview that they actually drank that water. And I'm like,
No hotels, no hotels.
and they're like, yeah. So,
Don't drink the water.
but
And
there
now
was a
it's a
lot of
crime
lawsuits.
scene, right? It's a crime scene. This hotel
Yeah,
is now a crime scene.
yeah.
And surely they just everybody out, closed it down. I don't know.
I think it kept
Weird.
running. They would just like
Weird.
they probably shut the water off, but they had to actually because of how they couldn't pull her body like out of the tank. They had to like cut a hole in the side of it and drain it and then get her body out of the side of the tank. And then we come to there's no explanation. Like nobody knows.
Poor
We go back.
family.
I
I
know.
feel so sorry for her
So bad for
parents.
them. But I mean, you go back and what's really weird on the footage, the elevator footage, it's hard to see in the YouTube video because it's all so pixelated,
Huh?
but there's like a whole minute missing of that footage. So that's why a lot of people think that it was the hotel like protecting one of their own because there's an entire minute of that video that's just gone. The video was edited.
Well, the video I saw, I'm sure there are several different ones out there, but it was like the timestamp was covered. You couldn't read the
Mhm.
timestamp at all.
Not
It was,
redacted
yes, like
pretty
that.
much.
It
Yeah.
was just, yeah, a code was on top of it and you couldn't see it at all. Hmm.
Yeah. So after all that, like I said, we don't know exactly what happened to her, like how it happened, but there are so many like people have so many different like theories of
Uh-huh.
it could have been foul play, could have been she was just on an episode and she just found herself in there, but that doesn't really explain like why was she naked? How did she get up there? If it was like like she did it on her own, how would she and there was a fire escape that you could crawl up, but it would be a lot of work. And so you have all those theories. Then you have normal theories that people think that like there was ghosts and stuff like this and that a haunted place. But yeah, I don't even know what to think. Personally, I think it was foul play and it was covered up.
Really?
That's just me.
Okay. I'll let you know my theory after I talk a little bit about bipolar. So, would you like me to do that now?
Yeah, go for it.
Are you okay? Again, I'm a psychiatric nurse practitioner, but I am not diagnosing, I'm not giving advice. Please, if you feel like you have bipolar disorder or somebody that you know, please reach out to a medical professional. But I just wanted to go through some of the diagnostic criteria of bipolar disorder. It's a very serious illness. Not only is it very serious, it actually increases the risk for attempt for suicide, like 20 to 30% increase in people who have bipolar disorder. And there's a really strong genetic component to bipolar disorder. So a lot of other mental health diagnosis, it's some genetic and a lot of kind of exposure to the environment, kind of nature versus nurture. But with bipolar, it is a huge genetic component and it definitely needs to be treated with medication. So there's two different bipolar diagnoses. There's bipolar 1 and bipolar 2. So we'll talk about bipolar 1 first. So to meet diagnostic criteria, you have to have a very distinct period. And this is important of the following, like high energy, high activity, very elevated mood or expansive mood or extremely irritable every day for most of the day. And three of the following have to accompany it too. Either grandiosity, so that's somebody who has very inflated self-esteem. They think they are, they're going to write a Pulitzer Prize book or suddenly become an actor and win the Golden Globe,
Yeah.
very out of character. And the next one is decreased need for sleep or no sleep. And I mean like no sleep. It's not like I slept 4 hours last night and I have low energy, but I kept going through my day. This is like stayed up all night long, very, very busy, went to the next day full of energy, very, very busy, and they're just working on whatever they're working on. Like, I am going to redo my laundry room, and that's all they do for like 3 days straight, and they never flight of ideas. So this would, well, first I want to talk about their speech. Their speech is very recognizable because they're very pressured speech and very talkative, and they don't stop. They're not going to let you get a word in edgewise. It's just talk, 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 talk. And then you try to bring up a point and then they start talking over you. And then flight of ideas. So this is like that very, very talkative, but they're jumping from one topic to another. They're not related at all. And then they just jump into this other topic and there's no like getting back to the point. It's just very different themes without stopping. They're highly distractible. So it makes it hard in psychiatry when you're trying to assess somebody because you can't do a blood test. You can't do any imaging. All of this is done by their symptoms. And if you're trying to get this from this conversation, and they're talkative and they're jumping from one topic to the other, and then they're distractible on top of it. You ask them a question like, when's the last time you slept? And then they're talking about grandma's house. It's really hard to get a good like picture of maybe what's going on if they are in mania. And then we talked about that psychomotor agitation, that activity, that body movement that looks very purposeful, but there is no
Yeah.
purpose behind it. It's just very odd. It was
That's
kind of, I don't know, watching in
what
the elevator, doesn't it
that's
kind of, it's off-putting?
yeah, I mean, I'm not downplaying anything, but it's just creepy to watch. I'm like, what is going on? I just want to know what's going on, what's happening.
Right. And you'd almost think that maybe she had substance on board, but as we'll talk about, they did a toxicology report and her alcohol level
Nothing.
is extremely low.
Yeah, she had a tiny, tiny bit of alcohol in her. She had no
Mhm.
drugs in her.
No.
Yeah, it's
And then just medications on board, which we'll
and
talk
then
about.
she did and that's another thing that I don't understand, like, how because it had been 3 weeks, but they did a toxicology report, and then they tried to figure out well, she was on, like, 4 different medications, but they were like they figured out that a couple of them she wasn't taking like she was supposed to, so she was kind of off some of her med, but she was taking other ones,
And which
but
ones she was
how
taking is going to be important.
but
And
how
we'll talk about it.
okay. But I mean,
Yeah.
I don't understand how precise that report could be having
Uh-huh.
her in the water for 3 weeks.
Right, exactly.
'Cause
Well, I'm sure they did. I mean, they do this all the time in forensics. A body will be deceased and then they get the stomach contents and they account for like how long that body has been decomposing and under
oh,
what
okay.
circumstances, whether it's water, whether it's in the forest.
Yeah.
It's science.
It's science.
It's science. And along with that psychomotor agitation, there's a high potential for painful consequences. And so there can be some real impulsive spending, right? Somebody just goes out and buys like 3 new cars in one day or decides it's just be random spending, buy, 50 tiki torches that they don't need because they live in an apartment, just random stuff. Or it could be the sexual impulsivity. So they are having like multiple sexual partners in a short period and they just have this very risky behavior. And if it's untreated, people can end up in jail. People can end up, not safe in a situation and can have a lot of severe consequences. And then again, it's not caused by a substance. So this can get tricky because if somebody takes a substance like cocaine and it puts them in a manic state, then that is not bipolar disorder. But somebody who is in a manic state could make a bad decision and take a substance. So then it's really peeling back the layers and, what came first and getting that timeline, which is really hard if somebody is in a manic state.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it's going to be causing impairment in their function and their relationships at work. Maybe they're not showing up for work or they're going to work and they're acting bizarre and they're getting fired, all of those things. For bipolar 1, they have to have a distinct period that's 1 week long that they're in this manic state or a hospitalization. So if they're so manic that they become psychotic and they have a hospitalization, even if it's only for a few days, then that meets diagnostic criteria for bipolar 1. Then there's a bipolar 2 that's just it doesn't have to be less intense, but it's for a lesser duration. It's a 4-day marked period of mania. Then it meets bipolar 2 criteria. And sometimes in that bipolar 2, those symptoms aren't as intense and it's not that impairing in their lives. It's out of character for them, but maybe they're not losing jobs and ending up in jail and spending their life savings and things like that. And then some people think in bipolar disorder, there has to be a depressive episode following because they say what goes up must come down. Oftentimes, after this manic episode, they'll fall into a depressive episode, but they don't. And a depressive episode is marked by 2 weeks of low mood, low appetite, low energy, all those anhedonia, which is not able to feel pleasure with things. But sometimes when people after the mania, they'll just go back to baseline and sometimes they just hang out at baseline. They're not always in a manic or depressed episode. Sometimes they're functioning really well.
So you come off that and then you're just normal. It's like
just level. Yeah. Functioning, doing well. And a lot of people get borderline personality disorder confused with bipolar. I think for a couple of reasons. People will refer to them as BPD, and that could mean borderline personality disorder, BPD, or bipolar disorder. People will call that BPD. So that's one reason they get them mixed up, but they're very different. Another reason is some of the symptoms look the same, like the impulsivity and kind of that mood instability. But what's different in bipolar, it's those very clear marked, like at least 1 week of mania or 4 days if it's bipolar 2. Whereas with borderline personality, it's kind of this emotional instability. It's not marked by a certain amount of time. And it's usually reactive to.
That'd be like just changing on a dime, like at any time.
Yes. Yes. So, and there's something called splitting. And what it is it's like somebody in your life they're just like my favorite person. I want to be around them. And then just in a split second, they're the enemy for whatever reason. And borderline personality is usually marked by or always by trauma somewhere in that person's life. So not to be confused with borderline personality disorder. And then we talked about that depressive episode being about 2 weeks, but it doesn't have to be there for bipolar disorder, for bipolar 1. And then subjectively, that person can have paranoid delusions during mania. They don't realize if they're in a dream or reality.
Well,
so you almost see her.
That's kind of what it looks like on the video.
That's what I was, yes. It almost like she's like stuck in this dream. And what it is they can't reality test. They can't distinguish what is real and what is just going on inside of them. And because they don't have a good understanding of subjectively, like how they're feeling or like the sleep and the food, there's a disconnect there. And so sometimes they don't even realize they've been up for a full week. Isn't it amazing that the human body could be awake for a full week?
How can you do that?
And they're just go, 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 go until they crash. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the medications that she had on board and then about some medications for bipolar disorder. And if for bipolar disorder, again, medications are so important.
Yeah.
It's not one that we can treat with just talk therapy or just supplements. Those can be augments to the medication, but you really need to be medicated to avoid all of these possibly very severe consequences.
Well, I know one of the ones that you're going to bring up, I was actually on for a while. And
which one was that?
Wellbutrin.
Yeah. So the generic name is bupropion, Wellbutrin. What was your experience on it?
It was not good. Well,
when you were on it?
I actually, it was good. So what it needed to do. But I was younger at the time. It was during my first marriage and I got on it and it did level me out. It did what it was supposed to do. I was young and I didn't understand medications. So after taking it for a while, I was like, man, I'm leveled out. I'm good. I don't need this anymore. And I just stopped taking it. Wow.
Yeah, don't do that. You forgot to not do that.
I went into like
sorry that you
psychotic episodes. I went into absolute rages. Because I just stopped taking it.
Were you hallucinating?
I never hallucinated, no.
Were you like delusional?
No.
Okay, so you were raging.
I would get more mad than I didn't even know what to do with how mad I was at nothing. I was just mad.
You were raging, yeah. You shouldn't stop it abruptly. So you felt
I
good
just
on
couldn't.
it. It was
Oh, yeah.
helping.
No, it
But
absolutely helped.
so
And
you
then
were
I
probably
just said,
having what we call discontinuation syndrome is you just stop it suddenly. And not only are you getting all the rebound effects probably of whatever you were struggling with, the symptoms, but now you're also getting the effects of stopping it suddenly. I'm sorry you struggle like that.
it didn't last long, but yeah, it was quite the experience.
So let's talk about bupropion, which is Wellbutrin. So it's an NDRI. So what that means is it's a norepinephrine and dopamine reuptake inhibitor. So what that means is it allows your naturally occurring norepinephrine and dopamine to hang out in your brain longer before the nerve cell takes it back. So it's available longer. So norepinephrine is a neurotransmitter in your body that is like adrenaline. So it's very activating. Okay. The other drug that she had in her body was venlafaxine, which is a Fexor. So that's an SNRI, which is a cousin to the SSRIs, which a lot of people know are antidepressants. The difference with an SNRI is it not only impacts the serotonin, it also impacts the norepinephrine. So the same with the bupropion. So we're hanging on to more norepinephrine, which is a very activating neurotransmitter. It's like the fight or flight of your body, right? So here we have someone in with bipolar, and you're having them hang on to this very activating neurotransmitter and elevating that. On top of that, she had in her body dexedrine, which is an NDRI, which is hanging on to more norepinephrine. So we
Oh,
got more adrenaline going on inside
wow.
this brain. It's used for ADHD or narcolepsy. It's a stimulant. So all of these are activating. And on top of that, she has sinutab in her system, which contains pseudoephedrine, which is a
Isn't
CNS stimulant.
I know it's Sudaf
What
isn't that like in a lot of cold medicines? It gives you like a
exactly?
boost?
It's a decongestant, but it is a activating stimulant medication.
Isn't that like the old Sudafed or I
Mhm.
mean, isn't that basically what it is?
Pseudoephedrine is Sudafed, yes.
Okay, yeah. Well,
So this is a cold medicine she's taking.
she's
And
like
then
she's like stimulated out of her mind.
and then guess what? So what do we have? What do we not have in her system? She had low to non-detectable quetiapine, which is a second generation antipsychotic, which we use for bipolar to calm someone down. She also had little to no lamotrigine, which is another mood stabilizer that we use to stabilize mood in bipolar disorder. So she's not taking, it doesn't appear, according to this information, that she's taking the moods to calm her down, and she's taking all these
She's
meds to
just
hype her up.
she's all like racked up on
Yeah.
all
And so
these
with
all
that,
these stimulants.
all that movement that we saw in the elevator really looked like psychomotor agitation from somebody who is in a manic stage. I am not diagnosing her. I have never met her. I'm just, having a discussion.
Yeah.
And then, so I know some of the theories are that she may have committed suicide. Most suicides, almost all suicides in bipolar disorder happen in a depressed state, not in a
Yeah.
manic state.
Yeah, I don't buy that one.
However,
I know it's go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was just like, that one really didn't sit with me because she didn't like, I mean, she was blogging. She was in like a good place. She was on this nice trip. She was it just doesn't, I don't know. It just doesn't gel with me about the suicide thing. But you were
So
about to say, however,
so most of them happen in a depressed state, and she doesn't appear to, from what we can see, that she's probably, sorry, I think I bumped my mic, that she appears to be in a depressed state. But there is also something called mixed features, which is when somebody's having mania and depressive symptoms at the same time to even complicate matters most. So what this looks like is anxiety, agitation, anger, and difficulty with attention. So if somebody's having that mixed state, that can be a time when it's high risk for suicide ideation or attempts. And the reason is because they're in a depressed state, but they're also very activated at the same time. So they're depressed, but then they also have this like activation and energy to carry out things. But if somebody's in a psychotic state of, say, we're not talking about mixed features anymore, we're just talking about the psychotic state of mania, that increases the risk for impulsive lethal actions. right? Because they are psychotic. They can be having command hallucinations. Command hallucinations are audio hallucinations. So that's when you hear something when nobody's around. Command hallucinations is that person is telling you to do something, and often they are very negative. Command hallucinations can include things like, you need to jump in this tank, you need to end your life, you need to,
So
whatever the thing is.
is that kind of like basically like hearing voices?
Hearing voices. That's exactly what that is. And hearing voices is the most common hallucination there. You can have visual, you can have olfactory, which is smelling things, tasting things that aren't real, or even tactile. You feel spiders or something crawling on your skin. But audio hallucinations are the most common. And if somebody is in a psychotic state because of a mania and bipolar, they're very distressed, disorganized, and again, they cannot reality test, right? And so if they're having these command hallucinations, it's almost like they're in a bad dream. So they could unintentionally bring themselves harm. So it could very well, be a theory that maybe she was in a psychotic state and that led her to being in an alternate reality for herself and causing, that horrible end to her life. Whatever it is, I am so sad that her life ended that way, but it sounds like she was an amazing person that had a
So
lot of positive impact on people.
absolutely.
I just hope that she's resting in peace, and maybe this story will help other people who are struggling with bipolar disorder, reach out, or if they know somebody who is, that they'll reach out and get help.
Yeah, on the conclusion part, I just wanted it to bring it back to where we started, not necessarily the hotel, not the footage, not the tank on the rooftop, not the investigation, not the theory, but bring it back to actually her. Possibly we'll never know, but just the fact of the matter that it's her life that deserves the most attention. And, maybe just remember her name and remember and be aware of bipolar disorder. I want her name to be known. And
I think it's good to humanize her, right? Because
absolutely.
she's not bipolar. She was a beautiful person who had a struggle with bipolar disorder.
Yeah. And
And
a lot of it's been, escalated to, oh, look at this weird video. She's acting weird, this and that. The weird stuff about the hotel, the rooftop, this and that. No, just remember her and humanize her.
And a lot of people out there who have bipolar disorder lead very productive, amazing lives. They are professionals. They are professors, authors. And then it's interesting that you mentioned how creative she was, because a lot of times artists and writers that are very creative, there's a high incidence of bipolar in that sort of career choice. So there is a wonderful creative component to it. But again, it is a very serious illness that warrants treatment from a psychiatrist. So if you or anyone you know is in crisis, 988, call or text, reach out and get some help. Talk to a friend, talk to family.
Yep. And that's the story of Elisa Lamb.
So if you, all the listeners out there, have been to the Cecil Hotel or have any weird hotel stories you want to talk about, we would love to hear some hotel stories.
Well, I want to hear some good hotel stories.
So email us.
It could be creepy. It could be debauchery.
Okay.
It could just anything. Just a hotel
Funny.
story.
I'll take funny.
Funny. My mind goes to darker
Weird.
places. Weird. Haunted.
If
Anything.
you believe in such things. And I tend to say all energy continues. So
It just goes somewhere else.
there's something to that.
Yeah, it doesn't just disappear.
Thank you for listening. If you have any stories or episode ideas, please email me at cyclorsarah@gmail.com. If you'd like to talk to Storytime Steve,
It's Cycler Steve.
at gmail.com. All right, we'll see you next time. Stay curious and stay psyched.